There is a certain kind of person who moves through the world like a soft silhouette, steady, composed, endlessly reliable. The one others lean on. The one who holds what no one else sees. They listen more than they speak. Apologize more than they need to. Swallow their exhaustion with a practiced, invisible grace. To many they appear unshakable. But beneath that calm surface lives an ache shaped by years of being the strong one, the responsible one, the one who rarely asks for anything in return. This is the quiet story of emotional weight. The weight they carry. And the weight they never learn to put down. There is a moment, usually small, almost forgettable, when a person who carries everyone's weight quietly first feels something shift inside them. It's never dramatic. It doesn't look like a breakdown or a collapse. It looks like a pause. A breath that doesn't fill the lungs the way it should. A heaviness that settles in the muscles before the mind understands why. For them, responsibility has never been a choice. It has always been an instinct. When someone needs something, they move. When a voice trembles, they listen. When a problem surfaces, they absorb it almost automatically. They have spent years living in this quiet readiness, holding space for others without ever asking who holds space for them. At first it feels noble, meaningful. There is a certain warmth in being needed. A certain identity in being the one who can handle what others can't. But slowly, over time, the emotional cost begins to gather, not loudly but like dust accumulating on a shelf. Easy to ignore until one day it becomes visible in the right light. It often starts with fatigue that feels older than their age. A tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. A sense of being overstretched even in moments of stillness. They don't complain. They've never learned to. Complaining feels like burdening someone else, and the one thing they fear most is becoming the very weight they spend their life lifting from others. So they keep going. They say, it's fine even when it isn't. They say, I've got it even when their hands are already full. They stay composed even when their internal world feels like a quiet, trembling house. Most people around them never notice. How could they? Strength, when performed consistently, becomes a costume others forget is a costume. To the outside world, this person appears balanced, stable, endlessly capable. Someone who does not crack, someone who does not tire, someone who simply does not need. And because people believe this, they keep giving them more to hold. More worries, more emotional tasks, more conversations that end with, I'm so glad you understand. They nod, they smile, they carry. But inside, that soft ache continues to grow, a subtle reminder that they too are human. Quiet carriers often feel emotions that don't belong to them. They worry about problems that are not theirs. They check in on others more than those others ever check in on them. They absorb small comments, unspoken expectations, the weight of keeping peace in rooms that feel tense. And the world rarely sees this internal labor. The constant scanning. The soft monitoring of what people need, what they feel, what might go wrong. It is a full-time job done by someone who never applied for the position. If you ask them how they learned to be this way, they wouldn't know how to answer. To them, it feels natural. Almost automatic. As if they were wired to be the emotional anchor in every space they enter. But deep down, beneath that habitual steadiness, is a quiet longing, one they rarely admit even to themselves. A longing to rest, to be seen, to be held with the same care they offer so effortlessly to others. Yet this longing often brings guilt, because they fear that asking for help makes them weak. They fear disappointing those who expect consistency. They fear becoming someone people can't depend on. So they stay silent, and the burden stays hidden. There are nights when they lie awake, not with panic, but with a kind of slow-burning heaviness. The kind that comes from years of being the strong one without interruption. It isn't crisis. It isn't collapse. It's more like an echo, a subtle calling from the parts of themselves they've ignored. Parts that say, you're tired. You've given too much. You're allowed to feel this. But these whispers are quiet, easily drowned out by louder thoughts. Responsibility, loyalty, love, the need to be dependable. Still the ache persists. Not to punish them but to be acknowledged. To be named. To be recognized as a sign that something has gone unnoticed for far too long. This chapter of their life, this early recognition, is not about breaking down. It's about seeing the first cracks in a role they have carried for years. It's the beginning of realizing that strength without rest is simply endurance. And endurance, when stretched too thin, begins to resemble a quiet kind of suffering. The silent burden is not a failure. It is a signal. A soft, human reminder that even the strongest hearts have limits. And that those who carry everyone else's weight deserve, perhaps more than anyone, a place to set their own down. The roots of carrying others' weight quietly often stretch back farther than memory. They wind through childhood bedrooms and small living rooms, through whispered instructions and unmet emotional needs. It begins in the spaces where love was conditional, or where silence spoke louder than words. Some learn it at home. They are the child who notices the unspoken tension between parents, the one who comforts a sibling before the sibling even asks. They see the exhaustion in grown-up faces and intuitively understand that they must step in, or the balance will tip. Responsibility becomes their language of love, carrying their currency. Others inherit it from expectation. From communities, from schools, from friends, from the quiet insistence that being good means being selfless. When a child is praised for being helpful, for being calm, for solving conflicts, a pattern forms. The mind begins to equate their worth with their usefulness to others. They learn early that their value is tethered to action, not to being. The origins are rarely dramatic. There is no single trauma, no defining moment. Instead, there is accumulation, small nudges that say, take care of it, take care of them, take care of yourself last. Each one alone seems insignificant. Together, they form a blueprint that quietly governs their choices well into adulthood. Family dynamics play a pivotal role. In some cases, emotional neglect shapes it. In others, overprotection. Sometimes, it is the subtle modeling of a parent or elder who constantly puts others first, whose anxiety or hypervigilance becomes a template for survival. The child internalizes these cues. They absorb the lesson without ever being asked. They learn to anticipate needs, to soothe unrest, to hold invisible burdens. And so, patterns form. Early experiences teach them that the world is fragile and that their care is necessary. They become practiced in reading faces, in interpreting moods, in predicting emotional storms before they arrive. They become reliable in ways that feel innate, because it is as though the self was never separate from the role of caretaker. Yet, even as they grow into adolescence and adulthood, the understanding of this tendency remains muted. They may notice the exhaustion, the quiet resentment, the lingering ache, but they rarely trace it back to its source. It feels simply like who they are, the person who can, the one who does. There is also an invisible thread of guilt woven through these origins. To ask for support feels like defiance. To admit overwhelm feels like betrayal. From the earliest age, they learn that attending to themselves might endanger the delicate balance around them. The result is a subtle self-erasure, a quiet shrinking of their own needs so that the needs of others can expand. Some carry trauma without knowing it. Some carry patterns passed down generationally, inherited beliefs about duty and resilience. And some simply respond to an environment that demanded more of them than a child should ever shoulder. In every case, the effect is the same: an unconscious devotion to others at the cost of self-awareness. Even small moments of kindness, when received, can reinforce the pattern. A smile, a word of gratitude, a look of relief, they are celebrated. And so the child, then the adult, learns that carrying weight is not only natural but expected, rewarded, and valued. They begin to define themselves through service, unconsciously equating care with love, responsibility with identity. By the time they reach adulthood, the origins have faded into something nearly invisible. The blueprint is internalized. What was once a learned response becomes instinct. The pattern feels as natural as breathing. Yet, under the surface, the quiet ache remains, the residue of a childhood spent anticipating needs instead of expressing them. This chapter of beginnings is not a story of blame. It is a story of formation. It is about understanding how something so human, a desire to help, to soothe, to protect, can take root so early and grow so deeply that it shapes a lifetime. It is about seeing the seed before the tree, and acknowledging that even the tallest branches may bend under unseen weight. The quiet carriers of the world often do not know how much of themselves was borrowed from their environment, absorbed without permission, shaped before they could ask questions. Understanding where it begins is not a call to guilt. It is a mirror. A way to recognize that their patterns are part of a larger story, a story of connection, survival, empathy, and, inevitably, the longing for something more balanced. And in noticing this, in tracing the ache back to its roots, there is a first step toward awareness. A first whisper that perhaps they are allowed to be seen as more than the sum of the burdens they carry. The quiet carriers of the world are not merely generous souls. Their constancy is shaped by the mind itself, by patterns that take root in the complex architecture of human psychology. To understand their burden, it is necessary to look beneath the surface, to the mechanisms of thought and feeling that make carrying others' weight feel inevitable, even essential. One key element is attachment. Early relationships form invisible wiring in the brain, establishing expectations of safety, care, and emotional reciprocity. When a child experiences inconsistent nurturing, or learns that love depends on pleasing, their nervous system develops a heightened sensitivity to others' emotional states. They become attuned to tension, vigilant to distress, and instinctively responsive. The brain, in its quiet brilliance, teaches them to anticipate needs before they are expressed. Overresponsibility becomes a survival strategy, wired into the body as if their very well-being depended on it. Chronic empathy amplifies this tendency. Some individuals possess an unusually strong ability to feel what others feel, to mirror emotions without conscious effort. It is a gift, yet one that can become a silent burden. When the emotions of others are absorbed as if they were their own, the mind is continuously negotiating multiple internal realities at once, theirs and everyone else's. The resulting mental load is heavy, even invisible, like water pressing quietly against the ribs. There is also the phenomenon of fawning, a response to stress in which a person prioritizes pleasing others over attending to self-preservation. It is a subtle variant of fight or flight. When threatened, they mitigate conflict by accommodating. Over time, this becomes habitual, morphing into a default mode of behavior. It is no longer conscious. They respond automatically, internalizing the idea that their role is to maintain harmony, even when it comes at the expense of their own stability. The mind of a quiet carrier often conflates self-worth with utility. The subtle messages of early life, be helpful, be strong, take care of them, crystallize into a belief that to exist is to serve. In adulthood, this belief operates like a silent governor, an invisible voice that measures value by the ability to alleviate suffering in others. Even small lapses, minor moments of self-prioritization, can trigger guilt, anxiety, or shame. Neurologically, this pattern is reinforced. The act of helping others releases dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, creating subtle reinforcement loops. Empathy, problem-solving, caretaking, they all trigger a quiet satisfaction, a sense of purpose. But these moments of relief are fleeting, leaving behind a residual tension, a quiet expectation that the next burden will come and it must be met. Over time, the brain normalizes overextension. Exhaustion becomes familiar, over-responsibility becomes identity. The psychology of carrying others' weight also intersects with social and cultural pressures. Some societies celebrate selflessness, others subtly reward those who manage emotional labor. The quiet carrier learns to align behavior with these external cues, sometimes at the expense of inner clarity. What begins as instinct becomes a loop reinforced by praise, recognition, and external validation. Yet the paradox is profound. While they gain admiration and trust, they often lose touch with their own needs. Self-care is a foreign concept. Resting for them may feel like failure, and saying no is a challenge fraught with anxiety. The brain's wiring, combined with life experience, has created a delicate balance. They are indispensable to others, yet invisible to themselves. Internal conflict often emerges. They recognize their limits, feel the weight pressing down, and yet continue. They feel the pull of their own life, their own desires, but their mind is conditioned to interpret this pull as selfish, disloyal, or irresponsible. Overresponsibility is both instinct and chain, a survival mechanism and a subtle trap. Understanding this psychological architecture is not about pathologizing the quiet carrier. It is about seeing the mechanisms that shape their choices, the patterns that amplify their burden. It is about recognizing that empathy, attachment, and learned duty are not weaknesses. They are facets of a mind finely tuned to connection. Yet, without awareness, they can become the source of suffering. In the silence of reflection, one begins to see the truth. The ache they feel is neither moral failing nor personal flaw. It is a symptom of the mind's intricate dance with environment, biology, and expectation. And in seeing this, there is an invitation to awareness, a gentle illumination of the forces that have guided their life. The psychology of overresponsibility is intricate, quiet, and often invisible. It is a testament to human adaptability, a reflection of the mind's subtle genius. And yet, like any skill honed too finely, it carries a cost that manifests as quiet exhaustion, persistent ache, and an internal longing for freedom from the weight they have learned to bear. There comes a moment, often quiet and unremarkable to the outside eye, when the silent carrier begins to feel the full weight of what they have held. It is not sudden. It does not arrive with fanfare. Instead, it is a subtle shift, like the first tremor of a long-buried earthquake, or the soft realization that a river has overflowed its banks. This moment is rarely dramatic because the weight has been accumulating slowly, imperceptibly, for years. A missed dinner. A lingering tension they cannot soothe. A sigh that no longer finds solace in their presence. a pulse of exhaustion that sleep cannot reach. The body, once resilient, begins to send signals the mind can no longer ignore. They notice it in their chest, in the shoulders, in the quiet ache behind the eyes. They notice it in the sudden impatience, the unexplained irritability, the fleeting thought that they too are fragile. It is a confrontation with the human truth they have long avoided, that strength has limits, and that caring for everyone else has left them diminished. Internal conflict often erupts alongside this awareness. Guilt rises quickly, as if acknowledging the burden is a betrayal of their role. I should be able to handle this, they tell themselves. I am responsible. I am strong. I cannot stop now. Yet, alongside the guilt is the first glimmer of clarity, the recognition that their life has been lived largely in service to others, often at the cost of self-recognition, self-compassion, and self-care. Resistance emerges naturally. Change feels risky. Setting boundaries, speaking honestly, or asking for help may feel threatening to the equilibrium they have maintained for so long. The internal voice warns of disappointment, of conflict, of inadequacy. But beneath the resistance, a quieter voice whispers, "You deserve to be lighter. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be human." It is in these small, conflicted spaces that the turning point often occurs. Not a sudden epiphany, but a gradual realization that carrying everyone's weight quietly was never a permanent requirement. That strength is not measured solely by endurance. That care for others need not erase care for oneself. Healing begins here in the noticing, in the awareness that the burden is not a mark of character but a pattern, one they can choose to reshape. They may experiment with saying no or asking for support, or allowing imperfection to enter their life. They may feel discomfort because the old pattern resists. But each small act of acknowledgement is a step toward integration, toward the recognition that their needs are as valid as those they have spent a lifetime serving. There is a subtle courage in this stage. It is not loud. It does not require applause. It is the courage to feel, to pause, to allow oneself the very care they have given so freely to others. They learn that to rest is not to fail, that to relinquish control is not to falter, and that to honor their own heart is not betrayal but reclamation. And slowly the internal tension eases. The ache softens. The body remembers what it is to breathe fully, unencumbered. The mind experiences a quiet clarity, a gentle awareness that they are more than the sum of the burdens they have borne. Their identity expands beyond caretaker, beyond anchor, beyond the silent strength that has defined them for so long. To carry others' weight quietly is a profound act of empathy. It is an expression of love, of attentiveness, of resilience. Yet even the strongest hearts require space to rest, to breathe, to acknowledge their own fragility. There is grace in seeing the burden, in naming it, in allowing it to exist without letting it define the self entirely. The ache is not a flaw. It is a witness to a life lived in service, a testament to a sensitivity that notices the world's unseen fractures and reaches toward them. And as the silent carrier begins to set down pieces of this weight, they discover a quieter strength. The strength to honor their own limits, to acknowledge their own needs, to live fully within the balance of giving and receiving. They learn that holding space for themselves is not selfish. It is essential. In the end, the world they carry is vast, complex, and often heavy. But within that world, they are not just the hands that lift others. They are also the heart that deserves to be held. And in this recognition, the quiet ache softens, transforms, and becomes part of a deeper, more gentle understanding of what it means to be human.